So this is SHINEcast. We're here with another episode. Today we have a special guest, Yanira Hernandez. And before we get started into the episode, I'd like to ask one special question. If you were to describe your teenage years in one word, what word would it be?
Wow, that's you started off with an intense question.
Coming on hot.
One word. During my teenage years, I think I was very. You know what? I think I was very. I was very studious. I was always, in those AP classes and those honor classes, always in school. And I also participated in a lot of other clubs. So I still was very studious, but I tried to kind of be a little bit well-rounded.
Okay.
I think studious was one of the things that kind of, I was voted most likely to succeed.
Okay.
I mean, that tells you a lot.
Very determined. Dude.
Yeah.
I think my word would be curiosity.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I like just exploring everything, and I think I'm just curious about absolutely everything, especially trying to pick like a major or like what you want to do for the rest of your life. Like it's a big pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I think I'm very passionate in what I do and very determined. I feel like when I have a goal on something, I really try to put my best effort to get and succeed in doing what I want to do. That's for me.
For me, I think I'd say motivated. Like, I feel like there's so many reasons, and like I have so much privilege and opportunity to do things, so I'm like motivated to succeed and accomplish many things.
Beautiful.
And would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself, Yanira?
Yeah. So first of all, so wonderful to be here with all of you. A little bit about myself. My name is Doctora Yanira Hernandez, and I am a therapist, specifically a licensed clinical social worker. And earlier we were talking about being first gen. I am also first generation Mexican American. I am the first in my family to be born here in the U.S. and also go to school, go to college, and go to higher education. And I was born and raised in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yeah.
LA
I'm an LA girly.
girl.
I'm an LA girly through and through.
Yeah.
And I am the oldest of two. So I don't know if any of you are the oldest. So y'all know what it means to be an eldest daughter and the pressures that come with that. And I also want to just share some of more fun things about me. I love soccer. I played soccer when I was in high school. So now I go to a lot of soccer games with my husband. And ironically, he played soccer and coached soccer in college too.
Wow.
Yeah, and he played soccer in college as well. I just realized that too. Yeah, so soccer is very much in something that we do. So I feel like that's kind of something I love to do for fun, outside of me being a therapist.
Yeah. Are you Chivas or America?
Oh, I love that you asked that question. America all the way.
Yes! America, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like being an LA girl? Like,
I'm from South Central.
Okay.
So not sure if you guys familiar with like South Central. It's one of like the main hoods in LA.
Yeah.
And because I went to school there, it was all about the Jays, all the Jordans, hoop earrings, all the swag back in the early 2000s. But yeah, it was during that time where just so much was happening. It's like besides like early 2000 hip hop, it was kind of like we were hearing a lot of the emerging of reggaeton too, like Daddy Yankee. That was like the era of like Daddy Yankee. Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So growing up in South Central, it was really hard to have also be this kind of studious girl that I was, and because my parents didn't go to school, didn't go to college, they always wanted me to go to school. So like, you better bring good grades. You better do whatever it needs to do to go to college. So I always felt stuck in between this like.
Kind of
gotta do homework, gotta be
Gotta
studious, but I also
balance.
want to have fun because
Yes.
a lot of my friends were having fun, and And actually, I was one of the very few of my friends who ended up going to college, just because so much influence that happens, growing up in South Central. But it had a lot of like different unique experiences growing up in the hood.
Yeah.
I read that you went to UCLA for your master's, and I think you went to, for your bachelor's, you went to USC, right?
The opposite. I went to UCLA for
for-
my bachelor's, and then
okay.
USC for my master's and my doctorate.
How is it like navigating that college process on your own?
So very interestingly, especially being first gen, being the eldest daughter, when I went to UCLA, I started as pre-med. So I was actually a biochemistry major. I was all about the science, all about the math, because I thought I wanted to be a doctor, specifically a pediatrician.
It's really impressive. You have the beauty and brain.
Yeah.
And also, I think it was also my parents' dream for me, but quickly I realized once I got to college that wasn't my dream. It was my parents' dream. And in high school, like having to learn the application process, FAFSA, everything that came with that, it was very stressful because the help wasn't all the way there. So I kind of had to find outside support to help me with that. And then when I went to UCLA, the transition was very challenging because UCLA looked very differently than South Central, So I remember I participated in a summer freshman program that kind of that helped us transition from high school to college. So that summer, I remember I walked in feeling like I was all cool with my Jordans, my hoops, my bun. And so imagine walking into the streets of Westwood, where it's close next to Beverly Hills, Brentwood. So very different from UCLA. So I felt like I did not belong at all. I felt like I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, this is too different than what I'm accustomed to. So acclimating to a different culture, besides the academic difficulty of it, was kind of challenging in a way. And especially because I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me, a lot of Latinos. And in my major specifically, because I went as a biochemistry major. Yeah, so those initial years were a little bit difficult in that sense, but then I did meet a few of the Latinas were like, oh, you're Latina, okay, let's all come together. And we would kind of hang out and be friends. And so that transition was a little bit challenging in the beginning. Yeah.
You mentioned how you struggled feeling like you fit in and stuff. So like, kind of me, like I'm scared for when I enter my college campus, and I feel like, what if I don't fit in, or I feel like I'm not like worthy of being here? How would I deal with that imposter syndrome?
And I love that you're asking it right now as a senior, because I don't think we talk about it enough in high school of that transition. One of the things I wish if I had gone back to be able to seek more mentorship from people that look like me. I think a lot of the times I was scared. I didn't know how to look for that outside support, especially when it came to the sciences as a biochemistry major. And I realized that had I gone to office hours or gone to seek that support, maybe it would have looked differently right now, And so being able to find mentorship and being able to join organizations that you feel seen, you feel like you belong, because there are plenty. If you have some at your school right now, wait till you get to college. There is a club for like everything, so that's what helped me ultimately feel some of that sense of belonging when I joined a Latina-based organization, and where I realized that there are other Latinas here who shared similar experiences, not all the same, but very similar. And so that I would say helps in terms of the belonging. And another part too, family, You know, if sometimes when you're the first one to get away from your family sometimes have a really hard time kind of processing that.
Yeah,
they want you to
adjusting.
stay local, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes you find yourself commuting, or you find yourself like maybe not applying to other schools, right? So for me, I was technically 30-45 minutes away from home, but one of the things that I pushed for my family, especially for my mama, was like, Mom, I'm gonna dorm. Like, I have to get out of the house. And I did dorm, and that allowed me to also experience the college life on my own. But also, I feel like I kind of grew up. I became an adult in a way.
Yeah.
I landed my first job, and I was working like in the school student store. It wasn't even like a big job. I also had another job tutoring. It was like random little jobs, but that was kind of what worked for me. And I was like, okay, I got some money, that felt nice. So different parts help with that sense of belonging, but finding your people, finding your community is something that I encourage you all to do that very early on. Now colleges are doing a better job on establishing different organizations for first generation students. So I think that should be your first step once you get into college, and finding those support systems so you don't have to navigate the imposter syndrome as intensity as perhaps I did or other people have done.
Speaking of, you said like leaving your family. Did you ever feel like guilt for doing so? I mean, like I feel, and like my family's very supportive. They're like, oh, if you need to go, you'll go. But I still feel guilty, like especially as the older sister. Like I'm not the parent, but like I feel so like maternal sometimes, So how did you deal with that?
Absolutely. I still feel the guilt. I still feel the guilt. And I always tell folks that the guilt never truly goes away, because a lot of the times we grow up with having such a connectedness with our family, right? We're told like family is everything. And, so we grow up with that such a strong value that it never truly goes away. But one of the things that I've learned how to navigate in a way where it's not as intense anymore. Right. So reminding myself that I also deserve to live my life, and also in a way of honoring my parents' sacrifices. Right. So perhaps, and I so empathize with you being the eldest too. A lot of the times I'm like, no, but like, what if they need support with this or like translating, or whatnot. But then I have to remember, well, my brother's still at home, and also if my parents need me, they can ask. Right. I don't always have to be there. Right. And so that's been one of the things that has helped me in being able to set healthy boundaries with my parents, about that. And also reminding myself that my parents have sacrificed so much, and they did that for me to have a better future. Right. And that's what we're doing. We're perhaps having different experiences that our parents never did in their home country. So consistently reminding yourself of like, okay, I'm actually doing what my parents want me to do. And also I deserve to make my own choices, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm a bad daughter. It doesn't mean that I am being unappreciating. It just means that I'm doing it slightly differently than what probably they imagined.
Right.
Because that came up for me when I told my parents that I was no longer going to do pre-med, no longer going to go into medical school, that instead I wanted to go into social work. And my mom, and they understood. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was happy. I thought they were not going to understand. And they understood. And it led to where I am now. So, yeah.
How do you convince families who don't believe in therapy to kind of start that for their kids who might need it?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So one of the things that a lot of the parents, they're not easy to get convinced, right? So when I used to work at a high school, and this came up a lot, and one of the things that I help parents understand is a lot of the times that taboo or what the stigma that comes with it, they think therapy looks a specific way. They think kind of in the traditional way, how we see in the movies, like you're in a couch and you're like being like analyzed, and like the doctor's like, so in a very, and they think about it in those lenses. And then, so then oftentimes when I talk to parents, and we're talking, And they're like, you see, like, I don't know if I can do therapy. I'm like, we just had a therapy session. They're like, this is therapy. And I'm like, yes. And so it's really debunking the way that they think that therapy looks like. And that is one. And then two, especially when they see a therapist that looks like you, that looks like them, that changes too, because now it's like, oh, you understand me. Oh, you speak Spanish, or you speak Spanglish, or whatever it is, whatever language it is that, and you realize that there is a level of understanding. Like, I don't have to explain every aspect of my culture. If I'm explaining, sometimes parents would be like, no, but I hit them with the chancla. Like, I knew exactly what that meant. I'm like, you didn't say less. I'm like, I got you. I know exactly what that means. So that is very helpful in helping parents understand, that therapy, it's about not only kind of seeing like what patterns are unhealthy, but also maybe this is the first time that we're learning how to express emotions. A lot of parents don't know or how to identify emotion because they never really had safe spaces to do that. So a lot of them is teaching them that. I'm like, and this is why it's important to support your child with expressing it. We spoke about, I think you had mentioned about intergenerational trauma with parents, right? So one of the things when I speak to parents, I talk to them, when you were 15, like when you were upset, how would you have wanted your mom or your dad to be there for you? And then they're like, oh, and then they start crying, or then they start kind of really processing and realize like, oh my God, I'm doing the exact same thing my mom did to me with my daughter, with my son. So being able to have those simple conversations for parents to understand, like, it's complicated, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that complicated. We can start very gentle steps of just allowing their child to express their emotions. And then sometimes, parents are not, your child's not going to tell you everything. Sometimes talking to a stranger feels better, but that doesn't mean that they don't love you or they don't like you. It's just sometimes it feels safer, So having those conversations can help little by little breaking down that stigma that parents have with therapy.
And currently I'm paying for my own therapy, and, I'm going through like hardships right now. My grandma, she has schizophrenia, stage 3, which is, it's tough to talk about, honestly, but, I take care of her. Oh, I'm gonna cry.
It's okay.
And, it's just hard seeing her like, not deteriorate, that sounds really bad, but, just slowly, like, leave, like, and it's like for those that don't know, it's like a mental health disorder where it hits you mentally. And it's like she's physically there, but she's not there mentally.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story about your grandma. And, and mental health, mental illness, it's just like any other illness, right? It's difficult. And you said it very beautifully that, your grandmother mentally is like leaving, how you remember grandma to be, right? And in general, when we navigate so many difficult experiences, right, we want to be able to have safe spaces to talk about them, right? Especially because maybe at home is hard. But you're right. Therapy should be more accessible.
So I kind of want to go back to like your journey with education. Sometimes like as first gen, not just first gen, but like being a person of color, like it feels like places aren't meant for you. So how do you kind of deal with that, like any sort of racism, discrimination, and just like feeling like it's so difficult to be part of this?
Yeah, wonderful question. And that's really important, especially as women of color, right? Navigating college, especially for the first time, depending on where we go. And even then, when we think about the history of college, they weren't built for people with us in mind, right? When I think about UCLA, like they weren't thinking about like, let's create this university for like a girl from South Central, who has undocumented parents and is first gen. My profile was not in mind, right? So we have to remember that when we enter into these spaces that are predominantly white spaces, or predominant voice it's there, right? Because we will definitely, as soon as we walk in, we will see things that remind us why we don't belong there, right? Maybe it's the people, maybe it's the images of like all over campus, right? And maybe they don't reflect who we look like. Maybe it's in the classes, right? In many different ways, we may see that. And we have to remember that just because our visibility is not there, that we still belong there, that our voices do matter, right? And it's a constant reminder. It's not easy. It is definitely not easy, which is why, again, finding those affinity spaces where you see yourself reflected is so important, because those are what's going to keep us rooted in there, right? And reminding yourself, like, okay, I may be the only student, the only brown student, or the only student of color in like my major or in whatever I go to, that I have to remind myself that I still belong there. So I hope all of you are planning to go into college and stepping into institutions, that you remember that. You remember that, and that's going to anchor you as you navigate it.
I wanted to ask, since you've already gone through the process, how did healing look like for you? Like, with your parents' sacrifice, like, how did you heal from all of that?
I think one of the biggest things that helped me with my relationship with my parents, because I had a lot of, even though I was very appreciative of them for their all their sacrifices, I had a very hard time more so connecting with my mom, because our relationship, there's just so much history there with my relationship with my mom. And one of the ways that I began to heal my relationship, specifically with my mom, was I started my own therapy, when I was in grad school, when I went for my USC for my master's in social work. And I realized, well, I am going to be a therapist, so I need to understand how it feels to be a client, because I also need therapy. And interestingly, when I was in my classes, I realized that a lot of the classes were hitting, and I'm like, oh, this sounds a little too familiar. Like something's coming up for me, and that's when I realized, like, I think I need to go to therapy. And in that process, and later on, changing my therapist and finding a Latina therapist, I realized that there was just so much hurt that was there, specifically with my relationship with mom, and being able to unpack that and process that, and also being able to find different ways to have a relationship with her, because I realized that I still love my mom and I still want to have a relationship with her. And now we have such a great relationship. We go out all the time, and now we're like little besties, but it wasn't like that before. So I've realized that I had to work with accepting that she will never be who I ultimately want her to be. And also I deserve to also honor my own emotions, my own experiences, my own boundaries. So with that has helped me navigating that in accepting that I can never change her. We can never change anybody, but I can change the way that I kind of connect with her, and the way that I show up for her, for the relationship, and for myself.
Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Truly an honor.
For us too. This meant a lot.
Yeah, I felt like seeing it through your experiences. I saw myself in your life.
Yes. We're so connected.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And with that being said, we're SHINEcast, and this is
Real talk for real minds. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.